Welcome to the Lead Machine Growth Show. I'm Paul Guyon, your host. And many business owners aren't failing because they lack effort. It's because they're failing because they never built the systems that make businesses work. This show is about how businesses actually grow through better systems, leadership, and execution. So, my brother Malcolm, thank you so much for coming. Great to have you here. Uh, I love the background that you've got there. We were talking about that before we started taping. So,
Yes, thank
Malcolm
you.
Reid Sr., I'll tell you a little bit about him before we get started. Malcolm Reid Sr. has helped over 1,000 coaches build profitable, values-driven businesses through Pro Global Business Advisors. His work focuses on execution, positioning, enrollment systems, and delivery frameworks and operations, which you're speaking my language, brother. He's also known for pushing back hard against hype-driven coaching and guru culture and focusing instead on measurable results and real business ownership. I like that your values focus. That's very interesting. But there's no shortage of advice on how to grow a business. What's the most what's what is the hard part on building something that actually works without constant hustle, posting and hype and just chasing the next tactic?
Yeah, first of all, Paul, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me on this show. And
You bet.
the hard part, and this is going to be interesting, is most people when they get into business, they were like the top performers at whatever they were doing before. They
Mhm.
outworked everybody and all that, and they took themselves with them when they started the business. So their mindset is a worker, a producer. So they take a glorified job with them and they think they can hustle their way to success. Tough part,
Mhm.
getting them to get into a mindset where they're looking at it as an executive with an aerial view of the business and looking at the mechanics of how it work versus being inside of it, doing the work.
Where does that belief come from? How did you arrive at that?
Just by diagnosing so many small businesses, not only do we help so many small business owners, but even working with the coaches and advisors that are charged with growing them, you see the same thing over and over again. Think about a professional that went to school to take an attorney, for example. They had to go to school, pass the bar, so they became really good at the law. Well, where in
Mhm.
law school does it teach them how to run a business? They don't. And so most people are good at the thing they do, and they lack the fundamentals of business 101 and the things that are necessary to run the business. And we see it all the time.
Yeah, so what you're saying is, and Ray Kroc is famous for this, and Michael Gerber wrote a book called The E-Myth about
Hmm.
this. You probably are familiar with it. And
Yes,
people are working in their business. Basically, they've made a job for themselves,
exactly.
and they're the technician. They're the awesome technician who can't get out of his own way, right? And
Yes,
and Ray Kroc is the guy who put together the original McDonald's, and he has a system for everything. And
yes,
he's in the real estate business, um,
absolutely.
and it's not about flipping burgers, but he probably had to get out of his own way. What did you do to get out of your own way when you first started out?
Oh man, I stayed in my way so much. The thing is what happened, Paul, is I didn't quit. What I would do is, even though I did not have the answers, I would still take action. And one or
Mhm.
two things would happen. Either it worked, which it really did,
Yeah.
or it didn't work. But here's what it gave me though. I knew I had a goal. And so I said, you know what?
Mhm.
If I achieve the goal, let me raise it. If I don't achieve the goal, we know that's not what you do. So I would keep doing that over and over again, hypothesize what the solution was until we found it. And then once we found the solution, I learned a lot along the way. We documented that, and then you go on to the next thing. But the key was I just wasn't going to quit. That was the biggest part. I never was afraid of failure. I was more afraid of not being successful than I was
Yeah,
to fail.
that's interesting. Yeah. When someone asks me what is my biggest fear, and I would say it a failure. And so that tends to make you a perfectionist and a procrastinator and someone the person who has ADD like me, can sit and overanalyze things and just never get it perfect because you never will.
That
But
sounds like me too.
I also believe in the power of incremental action. So,
Yes.
and rinse and repeat is a real simple phrase that really works. So when you course, it's about washing your hair, but putting the shampoo in twice. But the rinse and repeat is a powerful business system, I think. When you get something right, let's find something that works and repeat that in a systematic way, you know?
Absolutely.
And so what happens when the business buys into that mindset that you're talking about?
The biggest challenge, though, Paul, is them buying into that mindset. That's a very difficult thing to do
Hmm.
because one of the biggest fears of a business owner is like, what if some is taking something that's perceived to be working, at least is bringing in money, and
Mm,
trying to do something different that will disrupt cash flow, right? And so it takes a long time for them to do that. But when they finally realize that having duplicatable, repeatable systems with predictable results,
yeah.
when they finally get it, it's really liberating because finally they're not overwhelmed with work and putting out fires all day. They now manage the numbers, right? The math and the data is where the decisions are made versus on the hustle, grit, and your gut.
Yeah. So what is the biggest misconception about what actually takes to build a profitable business and adopting that different mindset?
The biggest misconception is that it's easy.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
A lot of people really misunderstand how hard it is to run a successful small business. Paul, it's like we're a glutton for punishment because we're
Yeah.
constantly being an entrepreneur is not for the faint of heart. And the misconceptions, again, they can work their way to success versus there's true systems in every part of the business. There's a
Hmm.
system. From marketing is a system. It's not something that you just do. It's a system, right? Same with your
Hmm.
sales. The marketing leads to the sales opportunities, but then there's a system. And then when they become your client, delivering on what you say is a system. Your numbers, there's a system to your accounting. So a lot of people don't realize that there's multiple systems that all work together to form this harmonious outcome that the business will drive. They believe that they can just go to work and it's just going to happen.
Yeah. And what I find, and one of my buddies is a real successful guy in business and brick and mortar kind of business. But he says, and I work with him to develop systems and implement systems and
Hmm.
define them. And he says, no, it's not that you have a system for it. You already have a system for it because you're doing it. You just
Hmm.
don't know, you haven't documented it and you haven't refined it and optimized it so that you know that it's repeatable and that someone else can do it too. That's the rub. And people really, I think a technician would rather, and I think they'd rather just do the work. I think they'd rather be the technician, be the designer, be the builder, the painter, or whatever it might be. But
Yeah,
I think that's really the stumbling block that we have to get over.
yeah, I found that to be true because it's the comfort zone. They know how
Yeah.
to do that thing, right? And they can do
Hmm.
that well. But yet the other part is not glamorous. It's not glamorous to sit down and read a P&L. Or how do I even read a P&L? What is a P&L? What is a
Right.
balance sheet? They run from that. And again, even the system, it's like, hey, like you said, the technician, somebody referred this person to me. Let me just go do the work, collect my money. I can pay my bills. And they just do that over and over again.
Hmm.
Again, it's that glorified job. Now, the thing is, as we were saying earlier, though, for some, they really want to learn how to not have to work so hard. Because after a certain period of time, they start burning out. It's almost like Groundhog's Day, right? They're doing the same thing over and over again. And it's not fun anymore. They fall out of love with that idea of why they wanted to go in business in the first place. And one or two things happens, Paul. I've seen either they quit or they're in a place now where they desperately want to learn how to be a business owner. And when
Hmm.
that person's in that position, when they're not going to give up and they want to learn, people like that really start to thrive because they're like a sponge. They're open, they're humble, and they'll do whatever it takes to get out of that situation they put themselves into being burnt out.
Yeah, and I think the faster that you get to that point, the better. It's tough, but like you said, being an entrepreneur is a lonely, hard job.
Ooh,
And you've got to do those things that to be successful, you got to do the things that no one else wants to do.
yeah, including yourself,
And
right?
and yeah, You got to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
So you've helped a lot of people grow without relying on social content posting. What actually replaces social as a growth engine?
And that's the biggest thing is I would ask this simple question. I would ask a business owner, what's the number one problem you solve for your customers? Most can't answer that. And then the follow up is, what's the solution that you have to solve that thing, which they normally can't answer? And the other thing I would say, what do you do? Most people can't articulate clearly in one sentence what they do. So the first thing is when you identify the problem that you solve and the solution you provide, before you ever go online to the masses, you have to know that, because the only thing that happens is when you're online, you just become part of the noise. So what I've
Mm.
found is identifying, again, and we have a formula for this, by the way, Paul. It's called the conversion formula. It had 4 steps, right? There's a
Okay.
problem that the audience has that they don't want, right? You can't force your solution down the throat of the marketplace. You can only harness what they already have. So what's the problem they already have that they don't want? That's your headline. That's the first thing you ever say or person sees. What's the next step is your subheadline, or that's the fascinate. That's the solution they're looking for, but yet they can't find it. And then you educate people, then show them that your solution or your product, it will solve this problem that's far superior to your competition in every way. And then you make an offer to them. Doesn't have to be financial, but it's so compelling and irresistible, they can't say no. You have to build that offline first,
Yeah.
right? Where are these people? Like, where are they looking for help? Who are the people that they go to for support? Who do they look up to? What are the magazines they're reading, the books, the shows? And you get in front of them there, build your system offline, and then and only then do I believe that you should go online where you can scale it, because you've already nailed those key components.
Gotcha. So taking pictures of my whatever I had for dinner tonight and all that kind of stuff is not what you're talking about.
I believe
Unless
it's a
you're a
complete waste of time, man.
unless you're a foodie and you have a food coaching business or something, a cooking
Yeah.
business. So that's just a waste of time.
I believe so. And if you look at the billions of people that use social media, first of all, what are they doing? They're scrolling, right? They're
Yeah.
just scrolling. And I believe there's an appropriate time to utilize social media. And I also do believe that social media is a way that you can generate leads and grow your business. But the challenge is most small business owners are trying to duplicate what they see the multi-billion-dollar companies do, who have the budgets to spend money on ads and force their brand down your throat. So the small
Hmm.
business owner is trying to brand. No one cares about the logo. No one cares about your colors. No one cares about any of that. What they care about, can you solve my problem? Do you understand
Hmm.
me? Can you fix it?
Yeah.
And so the small business owners out there thinking that because the gurus are telling them you're one funnel away, or just post all this stuff and tell them to do all these things and it looks pretty and shiny, they think that's what they should do. And most of them will
Hmm.
go broke trying to emulate the big boys. And I believe it's a big mistake.
Yeah, I do too. So getting back to your 4-step conversion formula, what
Yes.
you said you don't do it online, and a lot of people they want to do things online. What are the core systems or the ways that you do it offline? Walk me through that.
Yeah, there's multiple ways. You just go to where your people are. So, for example, take someone who may help single mothers who are having their first baby and they're breastfeeding. Just take
Mhm.
that. I had a client who actually was in that. Where's this mother going for her information? Right? She's going to be
Mhm.
reading baby books, right? She's going to be going to the baby stores online. She's going to be in baby groups, right? She's going to be looking. So, all the things that if you think about her journey, what are the things she's going to do starting now all the way up until she has the baby, and then even after she has the baby? And you make sure that you're everywhere she's already going to be and where she's looking for advice. And so when you say you know the problem, or the captivate, this is the problem she has, she feels that as a single mother and breastfeeding for the first time, that she's not going to be able to properly take care of her baby because she's inadequate. If that's your headline and you're speaking directly to her, hey, are you a
Mhm.
single mother that's breastfeeding and having your first baby, and you feel that you're not capable of adequately taking care of your child? That may catch her attention, right? And then so What's the fascinate? The fascinate or the solution is here's some 47-second remedies that'll ease all of your fears. Now you can have, now you maybe you can give her a workbook, a checklist, or something really simple that helps her to understand the warning signs to look out for when you first start to, once you have the baby and you're starting to breastfeed. Or here are the different places that you can go and little tricks and tips about little things that you can do. And then all you ask for is maybe their email so you can send it to them right away, right? And so what starts to
Right.
happen is obviously people are at different stages of their journey, right? 99% are in the information gathering stage. Only 1 to 3% max is ready to buy or to take action. So what you're
Yeah.
doing is you're nurturing and providing the information that specific person wants exactly when they want it. It's almost like you're in their head. And because they're consuming this information from you consistently, you build the know, you build the trust. And so when that person is ready to take an action, more than likely it's going to be from you. Paul, what most business owners are doing, they're trying to sell to 100% of the people that they talk to. And that's where the friction comes in. If only 1 to
Hmm.
3% is ready to buy and they're looking for the vendor to buy from, why would you try to sell to them? This is stuff that people don't teach. They don't teach
Yeah.
to nurture them on the journey. And you don't need to be online to do that. Now, online is great to find where people are looking and
Yeah.
where they're going for advice, to join these groups and to be a part of those things. But just insert yourself there, answer
Hmm.
questions for people. And before you know it, you'll have more people than what you can handle that are reaching out to you. It's very attractive.
Yeah. So that would probably be one of the biggest lies that entrepreneurs are being sold right now. What do you think is the number one lie today that in 2026 that entrepreneurs are being told that can help them grow their business?
That AI can do all this stuff for them and they don't have to do anything but sit back and allow the AI to do their marketing, write all their copy, close all their deals, send all their emails, make all their phone calls. It's not true. We're heavily
Right.
into technology. In fact, we're a technology company and our systems and methodology are being used when we utilize AI. AI is not going to replace us per se. That, that connection between human beings, the emotion, it's never going to go away.
Yeah. Human in the loop.
No.
Human in the loop.
Yeah,
Gotta
you
have
got
it.
to. But thinking that AI will solve all of your problems is a myth. Plus, people aren't even using it right. They use it like Google. It's a lie. Nothing will replace you being able to articulate how do you solve my problem. The customer doesn't care about anything else but themselves. If you can, if it, let me rephrase that. If that customer feels, and that's the emotion, they feel seen, heard, and understood, they will be attracted to you. AI can enhance that, but AI will never replace that.
And AI can help assist you in the message, the problem that you solve that you can't articulate so well, but you
Right.
know that you can describe the results that you're getting, and you can describe the people that have bought from you, and you can ask it, what is it that these people what did they experience before they met me and had my solution, and after, what was that transformation? And okay, put that into words that I can use. You can use AI for that sort of thing, but it's not going to
Yes.
automatically do it for you. Why do people keep believing that? Just because they want the silver bullet so badly?
Yeah, they're lazy.
Yeah.
Think about it. People, if you think about it, people will lose the remote control. They can't find it in their home, and they'll spend 2 hours to find the remote control as opposed to walking up to the television and pushing the on button. Right. So
Yeah.
it's, we live in a microwavable society. People just want things yesterday and don't want to put the effort in into getting it. And that's the other thing too, Paul. Another big myth is that it's just going to happen, right? That's why these people want to go viral. They just want to sit back, do nothing, record a few videos, and then go viral. And the chances of that happening are so slim. Even if a person gets a viral video, that doesn't mean long-term sustainable and duplicatable success.
Wow. So what are these people, instead of trying to find the silver bullet, what should they look for instead?
You have to have it's just like a house, right? A solid foundation is what's critical because Again, we're talking long term. There will be
Mhm.
storms. If you build your house on the sand, when the wind blows hard enough, it's going to blow away, right? If it's built on a solid foundation of cement or rocks, when the storms come, because they will, you can withstand it. So there's three
Yeah.
key systems that every business owner should have. Number one, you have to have a way of letting people know you exist. Right.
Mhm.
So you have to have a
Yeah.
marketing system or a way to get the word out. Number
Right.
two, when people raise their hand and say, hey, that's me, you have to have a duplicatable and consistent way of converting them into paying customers. And then the
Mhm.
third system is now that they've paid you, you must deliver on what you say. Those
Yeah.
three things, you do that. And as you mentioned earlier, rinse and repeat, you're
Mhm.
unstoppable. Yeah, you're going to have challenges. There'll be ups and downs, but tweaking the systems, looking at the numbers, tracking your success metrics allows you to tweak along the way inside of the systems. But those are the key main things. Find out what you solve and what you do well, right? Document it. Do it over and over
Those
again.
yeah. And it can get boring, but
That's
you can expand on it though. You can optimize it like you said. You can sell it. You can move on. You can do there's lots of things you can do once you have a repeatable system that can sustain itself without you in the loop. Unless you
yes.
want to be in the loop, you can still be in the loop, but maybe not forever.
Yeah. You just said something that I don't want to let you dropped a really strong diamond, not a nugget. It was a big diamond when you said that you can sell it. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't realize that something that may be simple, basic, or easy for them, or that they figured out, it's life altering for someone who doesn't know how to do it, especially
Yeah.
in a society where people just want it done for you. They don't want to do any work. So whatever that thing is, that we all have something that we do well and that we know. Package that
Mhm.
thing, position it, and sell it because others are struggling with the same exact thing. And so I'm glad you mentioned that. That was a big nugget there.
Thank you. The three systems, I agree with you. Which one of these do you think most people skip?
That's a good question. I believe the first one they skip is the marketing system.
Yeah.
They live on what I call hopium. They're addicted to hopium. They hope that
Yeah.
someone tells somebody that they exist. They wait for people to ask them, like someone's just going to walk up and hand you money. So they live off of referrals or word of mouth, and you can't scale that, and it's not predictable. And most people don't take the time to really, again, they can't identify what problem they solve. So it becomes very difficult to create a marketing system.
And I think that going back to the biggest lie that entrepreneurs are being sold today, I think those biggest lies are really around that marketing system where they focus too much on that and they really don't have a delivery system. And the promise of AI doing helping you organize a system of any of these systems is great. It helps you get to market faster. But I think that the delivery of what you promise is so important because it builds trust.
I
So you've got
agree.
to gain trust. You've got to make an impact when you're in that top of funnel, when they're just getting that first experience with you, that checklist or whatever it might be. But really, if you don't deliver on what you said,
Yeah.
trust goes out the window and your reputation suffers for it.
Yeah. You're done. And I agree. All three, if I'm being quite frank, most business owners don't do each of the three systems, they normally don't focus on them at all.
Yeah.
If they happen to get a client, they don't have a sales or enrollment system that's duplicatable. And if they happen to sell someone something, they don't have a repeatable way to deliver. And but if you don't have a client in the first place, you have nothing to sell and nothing to deliver, right? But the opportunities across the board, Paul. It's I see a lot of people that have that want to do that want to make a difference and make an impact. They want to do better for their families and create legacy and be in a position where they can have time, freedom, and financial security. Most just won't do what's necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you mentioned an enrollment system, and this was one of the things I wanted to break down a little bit more. Can you tell us what that looks like in the real world?
Going back to, you can't force your solution down the throat of the marketplace. People, Paul, hate to be sold, but you know what they
Hmm.
love doing? They love buying.
Yeah.
So if you put yourself in a position where when you obsess over solving the problem that someone else does not want to have, you become their relief, right?
Hmm.
People don't buy prevention, they buy the cure. So when you
Yeah.
become the cure, you don't have to sell people. There's no convincing, there's no persuading or begging or pitching. What you're doing is you're helping a person make a clear decision, not a forced one. And they want relief from this thing anyway. And that's why that conversion formula is so important. It allows people to safely get the information they need to solve a problem they already want to solve, right? And
Yeah.
so when you position it that way, it's just helping someone get relief. And so it really makes it a lot simpler. I'll give you an example, like our enrollment system. One of the things we do,
Okay.
we teach our advisors and our coaches, they're going to show an ROI attached to working with a small business owner before they ever ask them to do business. So what they're going to do is they're going to help them see no and low cost strategies that's hidden revenue in front of the business owner. And they're going to go through our software tool called Profit Advisor. And they're going to find them 6 figures or more of hidden revenue that the business owner didn't see, along with an implementation of how they get it. Once the business owner sees this stuff and they see that it's simple, it makes sense, it's doable, you know what their hardcore close is? Hey, would you like my help getting that? So at that point, they're just having a conversation on how they're going to go about working together. Is it going to be a one-on-one, a group transaction, a kind of do it yourself? How often they're going to meet? What's the investment going to be? And the key thing is you can meet a person wherever they are, from a struggling broke business owner to a Fortune 100 company. Everybody's budget's different, but they all have
Hmm.
a way to still get the outcome that they desire, but it doesn't require pressure. Here's the problem they have they don't want. Here's a solution. You demonstrate you can support them. You have it backed up by evidence, and to simply ask what would they like to do next? Would they like your support? Is there any other way you can, even if they say no, you still give them things. You still give them support. You still give them helpful information that can leave that person better off than what they met you. When you do that, people can tell instantly, Paul, that you really care about their success, not just taking their money, right? And
Right.
that leads to something we can't teach. You can't teach a person who to have morals, values, ethics, and be authentic. You can teach the skill, right? But those being a good human being, I believe that's the most critical aspect of being a successful business owner. Do what you say you're going to do it well to the best of your ability. It's okay being wrong. We all make mistakes, and
Mhm.
be obsessive about keeping your word.
I'm glad you brought values up because I think as companies grow, especially as small business, family businesses, entrepreneur, founder led companies, they have this vision, they have this passion. They want to change the world. They want to make an impact. They know themselves. They know how they know how they want to be treated because they weren't treated that way. They saw other people treated the way that they didn't like, and once they found their business, they want to have these values in place. And I always ask founders and business owners when they grow, how do they make sure that there is those core values live on with as the company grows and beyond them?
Yeah, if the values, if they are truly that person's values,
Hmm.
then they're not open for compromise. And I'll tell you, in our case, every employee must meet those values. They have to be people that, again, they have values, ethics, they're authentic. You, they have morals, and I guess those are broad, but you just can tell through our vetting process. But it's the same for our clients. Our
Mm.
clients must meet that same threshold. And Paul, I was told I couldn't scale culture. I have hundreds of clients all over the world that are business coaches and advisors, and in our community, it's like-minded because we have a vetting process. It's 4 steps. They have to get past multiple people and our selection committee before we ever extend an opportunity for them to work with us, because we won't compromise on that. And as a small business owner, I would tell you, anyone in the audience that's small business owners, don't let nothing compromise your values. You're going to have times where you're not going to be able to figure out maybe where payroll is going to come from, or things look really bleak. Sticking to your values, that's going to allow you to get over the hump, not compromising them. And I think that's one of the most important things, Paul, especially as you grow and start to scale. Your internal team and everyone that you lock arms with in any capacity, you must stick to what your values are.
Yeah, amen. So give me a real example of someone who came in struggling, was broken, and really needed help. So what changed and what was the turning point for them?
Wow, there's so many. I'll tell you about Robert. Robert had been burned like many of us multiple times. He tried programs, hired coaches, hired marketing companies, did all the things that the industry or the gurus tell us supposed to do. When I met Robert, he was broken, broke, busted, and disgusted. That's the way I'll say it. Robert has, I think, 8 children, married, lives in Virginia. And obviously, he wasn't trusting. He didn't trust anybody, the most skeptical person I ever met. But we had 4 different conversations. I even told him, let's speak to your wife. And we end up meeting her eventually. But anyway, Robert said, Malcolm, this has to work. The thing we did is the first step was we had to understand what Robert was going for in his life, not the business. What are your goals in your life? Because now that'll allow us to do, and it allowed us to do, Paul, was intentionally craft his business, that asset, to give him the life that he desired versus the other way around. They start this thing and then you have to adjust your life to fit it. Once we got clear on what he was really going for, or what his why is, what was driving him, it kept them on track so that when we put the step by step game plan in place, when things got hard, when the head trash is what I call it, of thinking, when someone else burned him thinking that maybe we're doing the same thing, we could get him refocused. I'll tell you and here's what Robert's exact words were. He said this actually 2 years ago. He's been a client of mine now for 5 years. He said it was the single best decision that he ever made. Why? He had structure, he had systems, and he had accountability. And today, Robert, he has a multiple 6-figure business. He just paid off his mortgage. I think it was 18 months ago. He paid off his house. And he's generating not only more revenue than he's ever made, but he has the time freedom to enjoy. He's an elder at his church. He wanted to spend more time serving God. He does things with the youth. He's a mentor in his church as well. And he can now do things that he has the freedom to do things that he's always desired. It hasn't been always easy for him either, Paul, because I'll say we've bumped heads quite a bit. I'm that guy that he loves to hate, and he loves me because we hold him accountable to what he wants, and it's what his family deserves. What he hates about it is it's hard. But that's a real success story. It boils down to 2 things. What's your why? And your relentless commitment to never, ever giving up. But part of that is the systems, the processes, and doing the things that aren't so sexy, right? That don't appeal to us to get instant gratification. I'm proud.
Well, what was the turning point for Robert, though?
His turning point was when he finally gave in, when he finally recognized that his best thinking got him to where he was. And when he was willing to allow himself to be supported in a way that he's never been supported before. That was a turning point because, most of us think that we have the answers. We trust our judgment, right? And so when someone's coming along and what got him to where he was, he'd never seen the next level above that. So the things that he was being asked to do were uncomfortable. And so when he finally, I would say, surrendered, right, and became humble enough to receive that type of support, that's when the breakthrough happened.
Yeah. And I think that's true. And not just business, it's also in life, surrendering yourself and humility, seeking help when you need it. And maybe seeking help when you don't really think you need it.
Yeah. It's tough.
Yeah. That's what he did. So
yeah, I'm proud of him. I'm proud of him.
It's a great story. So when a business stalls, what's usually the real problem under the surface?
In most cases, it's the business owner. The business typically can only grow to the extent that the business owner does.
Hmm.
And that's personal and professional growth. And so it's stalling because back to Robert's situation, their best thinking got them to where they are. And sometimes what happens, Paul, is that fear of exposure. But your friends think you're in business, they think you're successful. And the mask that we wear, that we don't want people to get behind that to see the vulnerability of that we may be struggling and things aren't as glamorous as they look. And so they don't ask for help and they just keep doing the same things over and over again. So they're the bottleneck in most cases. But you know what it boils down to also? They don't have systems. That's really
Yeah.
what it is. They're working themselves into a mess, right? And they don't know how to get out of it because there's no systematic approach that has checks and balances. And again, the data that drives their decisions. It's all emotion and hustle.
And it's those three pillars that you mentioned earlier, the systems that they need to install.
Yeah.
Is there a specific order that they do install them? I think there would be.
Yeah. The first step is you can't fulfill something that you don't sell. And you can't sell
Yeah.
something that no one knows about, right? So the
Yeah.
first step is how do I identify what the problem I'm solving? And then how do I get the word out to those people who are actively looking to have this problem solved? That's the first step, right? Once you solve that, you have a good problem. There are people raising their hand and saying, "Hey, I want your help." So how do I figure
Hmm.
out a system to convert those people consistently, right?
Yeah.
Now, part of what you're building in your marketing system is your fulfillment. Because when you
Hmm.
identify the problem, you're also identifying the solution, right?
Right.
Excuse me. So what happens is now when they do say yes and they've paid you and money has exchanged, now you have to deliver. But there's lessons there because you just get better and better by getting feedback from your clients or from your patients or whatever that you have on how did they feel the delivery was. Did they get what they expected? If they had to do this all over again, would they? Would they be willing to refer others? How well did we deliver? Was it done in a timely fashion? We have to be obsessed over getting that kind of feedback and just continuously improving, but it has to be done in that order. So it's kind of one and three. The marketing and fulfillment kind of
Fulfillment.
happens in the beginning, right? And then you sell it, but then you get better at fulfilling as you get more and more customers.
And sometimes I think that the technician, the founder that's a technician, uh, is really doing work they don't want to do. Uh, People come to them for the result of them doing it for them. They want it done for them, but that's really, they're good at it, but that's really not what they want to do. How do they get out of that cycle?
Ooh, most of them don't. That's what we were talking about earlier, how
Yeah.
that once they get sick and tired of being sick and tired,
Yeah.
right? Most give up. But for that percentage that says, I need help,
Yeah.
those are the ones who get what they need. They finally open themselves up to getting the support. I remember being in that situation. Like you were mentioning
Hmm.
before, I was a perfectionist, but I would never quit and I was going to outwork everybody. And it got to a point where something had to give. And it put me to my knees a few times where it's like, hey, I need help. And that's tough. I grew up in an environment where you didn't ask for help. Growing up in the slums of Baltimore, asking for help was perceived as a weakness. And so that was a difficult thing to do. And we were taught not to tell your business, right? So I was taught not to tell my business and a perceived weakness asking for help. You can imagine a guy coming from the streets of one of the hardest cities in America. That's not easy, but it's one of the most liberating things that you can do is when you just humble yourself. People want to help people who aren't know-it-alls. When you're open to getting feedback, you would be amazed at the people who would just they open up and they gladly support you. And so that's what I would suggest, Paul. Listen, don't give up. Ask for help. Get the help you need. It's actually a strength to ask for
Yeah.
help.
Yeah. So we're getting down to the wire here. There's more questions I wanted to ask, but You've been at this for over a decade. What lesson about leadership or integrity changed how you do business? You started out humble beginnings, had to fight to get to where you are, but there had to have been some hard lessons that you had to learn.
Oh, yeah, it's all kinds of lessons. I would say when I first, earlier in leadership, I believed I had to lead from the front. And what I mean
Hmm.
by that is I was up front, I'm taking charge, I'm coming up with all the decisions, and come on, let's go. Today, I lead from the back. I'm the last person to speak. I empower others. I allow them to do what they do. I allow them to fail. They're never the problem. If they don't get it right, that's an opportunity for all of us to find a solution. I care about their families. I get to know them personally. Although people say business isn't personal, it's not true. And so by doing that, leading from the back and empowering others, Paul, I've learned that you cannot be successful by yourself. You empower as many people along the way, and people will go through a brick wall for you. When you're that lone ranger that's demanding and pushy and judgmental, it's in for a quick exit and a lot of lonely days. And so
Yeah.
I learned that lesson.
And it's a hard lesson, but it's a good lesson
Yes,
for sure.
absolutely.
Leading from behind. I
Yes.
love it. Yeah. So when does someone stop being a coach or a technician, which we've been using that language, and actually become a business owner?
Yeah. Unfortunately, most don't. For those that do, they start to understand the difference between the wage mentality, meaning exchanging their time for money, and a profit mentality, means that things have a cost and then you sell it for a certain amount. And the difference between the two is profit. And the more distribution that you can deliver and the more people you can get those transactions that are profitable, you now shift into a different role where you're not doing the work, you're driving the engine or the operating system that's delivering more profits. When they get to that point, then realize that the more the business can can function without them, that's when they start becoming a true business owner. System dependent, not owner dependent.
I love it. So got one more for you. Actually, there's probably more than one. What's something you believe? This has been a great conversation. What's something
Okay.
you believe now about building a business that you had to learn the hard way? You touched on it earlier, I think.
I'm gonna tell you something I've learned is when I first started, I was broke. I needed money.
Yeah.
So that was my motive. Since then, I've learned that when you obsess about fulfilling a problem for somebody else, you
Hmm.
lead with morals, ethics, authenticity, and your values, the money comes as a result. Versus, so I'm not chasing the money. What I'm doing is fulfilling the challenge or the problem that the person or the company has. And as a result of that, the money takes care of itself. And the other thing too, Paul, is when money's not the driver, you can be 1,000 times more who you already are when you're leading with money. Money creates a dynamic that requires you to make a transaction versus you leading from a place of service.
And when you're looking for the money, your hand is closed. When you're leading from services, your hand is open. And so,
Yeah.
what what is when are you going to get the money? When your hands are open, right?
Yeah. Think about it, when it's
Yeah.
closed too tight, right? Nothing can
Yeah.
come out and nothing can come in.
Right on.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
other thing I learned too, this is the biggest one. I have to be balanced. And for me, what balance means is for me to show up as the best version of Malcolm, here's the order that my life runs. It's God first, my wife second, the rest of the family third, and then I can show up as the best version of myself in the business. If any
Hmm.
of those things are not in line in that order, things just don't work out. And that's critical. Another lesson I learned as well, having that type of balance.
Yeah, I love that. So let's land this. What are three things someone listening today can do to start a business that actually works and makes a difference?
Yeah, the first thing is keep in mind, you can't force your brilliant idea down the throat of the marketplace. So, what
Yeah.
is the problem that already exists, that's already
Mm.
out there that you and your superpowers that you can solve? Identify that first. Second step is you must find out where those people are, where they're going for advice, because they're already looking for a solution, right? So when you can find out where they are, position yourself in front of them that you can solve this particular problem for them. And then third, go solve the problem. Sounds overly simplistic, but it's really that simple. Identify the problem, create your solution, and find out where those people are, and then go solve it.
Love it. It's simple, but it's hard.
Yes.
But it's doable. I think you can do it. I know I can do it. I know you've done it. And listeners out there, if you really want to learn more about Malcolm's approach, can you tell us how people can get in touch with you and maybe get your book?
Yeah, absolutely, Paul. And here's the thing, the book that I had published, it outlines the strategies that we utilize to actually grow small businesses. And these are no and low cost strategies, meaning you're not going to go out here and be spending a bunch of money on marketing or ads. It has nothing to do with that. And so what it will do is that your listeners can get a free copy of the book if they go to 100K, and that's the number 100K leak, like a leaky faucet, 100Kleak.com. You'll get a copy of the book. And I'll tell you, if you implement those strategies, thank Paul later.
I love it. I love that 100K leak. That we speak the same language, brother.
Yeah.
So it's been great having you on the show. Remember, faith and action go hand in hand. So keep the pedal to the metal. Until next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show, I'm Paul Guyon, and Malcolm. Thank you so much, Malcolm Reid Sr. Thank you so much, my brother. I appreciate you having on the show.
Yeah, this has been fun. Thanks so much, Paul. It's been a blast, my friend.
Thank you for tuning in to the Lead Machine Growth Show with Paul Guyon, where we show you how to tackle your tech, master your message, and design your dream so that you can transform your vision into reality. Remember to visit our website at www.leadmachinegrowthshow.com and enjoy even more great episodes like this one. Again, while you're here, subscribe to us via your favorite network. We look forward to seeing you next time on the Lead Machine Growth Show.